the Ringer always does fantastic work, and they put together a really interesting slate of 10 players who could complete a contender, and they're calling them the Derek White All-Stars. Obviously, you saw up close and personal with the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals that Boston Celtics team was just incredibly well made. Yes, a lot of salutes have to be given to Brad Stevens, somebody who I personally tried to hate on for quite a bit. Especially, I didn't understand when they moved him up to the front office, but he's handled that work incredibly well, including...
Isn't it amazing if he goes from college coach to pro coach to front office and killing it at all levels?
Right. And so he brings all those together, and he does that work, including finishing off that team, acquiring Derek White, and, of course, Drew Holiday. But Derek White is the one that really stands out because they needed that point guard, but one that was not going to hold on to the basketball. Marcus Smart was a guy who kind of wanted to hold on to that basketball a little bit. Luka got Flower Mound Marcus.
He's the only person I feel bad for in this whole deal for the Celtics because he was like heart and soul. He had green hair and everything, and they called him one of the emotional leaders of that team, and they traded him away, but they succeeded without him.
I think that his I don't want to say his mission, but his play style was just a little bit different than what they needed.
He's in Memphis, by the way, for those who
Yes, he is. And I didn't realize this, but he might be kind of gettable as some of the rumors that we're seeing as it's that time of year where people start talking.
Oh, yeah.
And I do wonder if maybe that's a guy that's interesting. But we'll go through some of these Derek White All-Stars, as it's called, because Derek White fit in perfectly with Boston. He gave them defense. He gave them playmaking when they needed. He gave them shooting when they needed. He completed what that team was. And so we're going to go through these list of guys. Tell me if one of these guys sounds like something that maybe could complete your Dallas Mavericks, because there's kind of a situation as the Ringer puts together where they have the dream fit situation. And I'll see if you match up with what the Ringer thinks about some of these guys.
And one of the reasons why a lot of Maverick fans are interested in this because the word is they're only one player away.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were in the finals. They have a good situation, but if you have a player that just makes it all click in a huge way, this is the time of year where you get it. And you said it, CA, probably said it the best. You trust Nico Harrison to continue to make that move if it needs to be better. In fact, Tim McMahon earlier today on with RJ and Bobby on the Sean and RJ show, he said just that he believes wholeheartedly that Nico Harrison will make that move if it is to give. In fact, that's how Nico talks about it.
In fact, Nico literally has made 11 trades, and he's only been here 3 years. 11 trades.
Active.
And been to the Western Conference Finals, twice the NBA Finals. Now, again, I mentioned this earlier, the general managers for the Rangers, the Stars, and the Mavericks, they fortify their rosters, and that's what Nico will do. He will cut bait, and he won't do it the traditional way. He will get it done and watch where they go. So, in other words, if you don't like the way they start out, Grant Williams got traded, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Do not think as the season starts, this may be the final product. Nico's not going to be saying, we like our squad, we like our guys.
And with that being the case, let me hit you with some of these guys that are probably available or possibly could be out there that teams could maybe try and go get, right? 10 veterans that made the cut for the Derek White All-Stars. First of which, a dude who's with Utah right now. His name is Colin Sexton.
Oh, yes.
Currently on a 2-year, $37.5 million contract. Never appeared in the playoffs, but he has a lot of, contributions to be given, right? Downhill attacker, gets to the paint at will.
I think layups every time I think of his name.
Yep.
Layups.
Yep.
When I think of his name, I think of him smacking the court floor and guarding defensively.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Knockdown shooter as well. Knockdown shots, 25 years old. Probably could help a team on both ends, as you mentioned, Kevin, a little bit of defense in there as well. Do you think that that's a guy? But he is a guard. I think that that's where it gets tough, is that you're talking about a guard there, and the Mavericks have a lot of guards, including the two that are going to eat up a ton of minutes when you need them.
Oh, yeah, and we're talking about, if you like the bench, again, I think Jaden Hardy is just going to get better and better and better, and you don't want to take away from that. And sometimes you look at Josh Green and say, well, Josh Game's kind of lost out there. That last game, he started knocking down all kinds of threes.
Yeah, I started 4 for 4, right?
And he extended his contract.
5 for 5 even.
Yeah, he's extended his contract last October. I'm like, I think this is the kind of guy. He's energy and he makes steals, so I don't want to mess with those two guys and have anybody blocking them. Although I think we do need some of the things that Colin Sexton brings.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to find the perfect one. The dream fit for him, they say, is San Antonio. Sexton with Victor Wembanyama, that defensive prowess, but then also a guy that can get downhill. driving kick.
Doesn't he realize that Trae Young wants to go to
Well, yeah, I
San
imagine
Antonio?
that's there.
He doesn't bring the defensive prowess.
No.
If you want to.
A lot of people talk about him
short.
Not just bad at
that's
defense.
not what I'm saying.
There's definitely short people that are good or better at defense. No, that guy is not very
You're
good.
not calling him a cone.
All right, let's move this around.
He is kind of orange. No, that's high yellow.
All right, so I gave you a guard. How about this for a
myself.
forward? Wizards forward, Denny Avdia. He's on a 4-year, $55 million deal. You know, he's versatile. He's offered some defense a little bit. He's been able to guard Onyeka Okongwu, who's a center, for Jalen Johnson and Trae Young when they played against the Hawks, right? Like, he's done a lot of that. 37.4% from three, and he'll do a little bit on ball from here and there. Is that something that you're interested in, or do you feel like, and Denny Avdia, not quite?
Not quite. I think Daniel Gafford was the steal from the Wizards. I'm going to leave it at that.
Fair enough. His dream fit, apparently Memphis. Being there in Memphis could be an interesting fit for him.
And by the way, Ja's back next year. The West going to be tough.
That will be interesting if he makes it. All right, so I gave you a guard. I gave you a forward. How about this? A center from the Nets. Day'Ron Sharpe, who currently is only on a 1-year, $3.9 million deal. Really lean. But Brooklyn has a lot of dudes in their front court. Day'Ron Sharpe only averaged 15 minutes a game. But per minute, he's a really good rebounder, screener, and a pretty decent passer himself. Is that something you feel like the Mavs need?
Nope. Not
I'm surprised it took you that long to get there.
I was shaking my head and rolling my eyes. I was like, no, that never even crossed my mind. They don't need any sitter help. We don't want those two guys are depth enough. I'm talking about Gafford and Lively. Leave them alone.
We have Powell. What are we talking about?
What are you doing right now?
What are you talking about?
What are you doing right now? Those people they'll ring you up if you're not careful.
Are you saying that Dwight Powell's not good?
He plays as hard as he can, but he's not a true center.
That's how you know when you're trying
to
be real nice to somebody.
Yeah,
bless his heart. He does everything he can.
That's the worst. Bless his heart. Again, he's a great guy, but he does little things that here's what it is. If you look at the analytics, he is, and this only works in the regular season. He's one of the most effective rim runners in the NBA. The coaches know this, and he plays off of Luka very well. But guess what? They know he's short, so they were always looking for the bigger Powell. That is Derek Lively. Believe it or not, because of the high basketball IQ. Powell's got a high IQ. Lively's got a high IQ. J. Kidd's got a high IQ. Kyrie Irving's got a high IQ. What you don't want is a bunch of athletes. You got to have guys who have a head on a swivel and can play with two guys, talking about Kyrie and Luka, who have high basketball IQs. Powell's just one of those guys, so let him play a minute here and there.
All right, so as you're kind of defining some of the guys that you want to play around Luka Doncic and Kyrie, because that feels like that is the decision-making matrix, how about this, gentlemen? Jerami Grant, Blazers forward.
Love it.
4-year, $132 million deal. A lot of money there.
Yep.
Biggest contract of anybody on the list, and he's already 30. So he's the oldest of anybody that we're talking about here. But he wanted to prove himself, scores big money, but his teams haven't won a lot. So he might be in a situation where he might be ready to get himself into a place where you limit some of that ability to get the ball in your hands, but you have the possibility of being able to pop up and be a scorer in that right and get your own. In addition to that, a versatile defender who could fit into a switching defense and a knockdown shooter who can, cut and score at the rim. Capable of doing work off the dribble, much like Porzingis for Boston. Maybe he would like a little bit more balance of being like, hey, I'm going to get all my shots, but maybe not on a good team. Does that seem like a fit for the Mavericks?
It would be, and again, you have to do the math on the contract. And again, the Mavericks with the new ownership, I don't think they're on. Nobody can. We're not going to go right now. They're under the cap. They hadn't been under the cap for I don't know how many years.
Yeah, they're under the luxury tax, or I think they're just a little.
They're under the luxury tax, and they can do something with the second apron. The whole point I'm trying to make is, with the success they've had this year, ownership might be giddy enough to say, let's do something with this, and we don't mind. At the same time, my only concern about him, and I think he's a perfect fit, other than the fact that he does not play a full season. He's always different kind of injuries. I don't think he's played more than 60 games. All I'm just saying is that's what happened. I don't know if it's load management or the fact that he does get hurt. That's the only flaw. Earlier, I misspoke. I was... What are you thinking? Two people at the same time in your mind? I was thinking about his teammate Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah.
Thybulle, last summer,
more of a 3-and-D player.
Yeah,
in his own right.
And he wanted to be a Maverick so bad. And Nico Harris signed him because he's a restricted free agent. Signed him to this deal
offer sheet.
The offer sheet that he's got right now with the poison pill, which was a player option. which allowed him to have control of his future. And they thought that Portland wouldn't touch it. They matched it. As far as Jeremy's, and by the way, he would be so disappointed that he's not the one that gets to go to the Mavericks and Jeremy does. I like everything about Jeremy. A lot of, again, you can look at the contract size, let the management worry about that. But the injury situation, I have no idea if it's load management or if it's, that he gets hurt a lot. And I don't concern myself that much about it, except for he's 30.
Yeah, and the thing about him, you look at the last few seasons, and this is in reverse order. This past season, 54 games. Before that, 63 games. Before that, 47 games. 54 games, and then 71 games before that, this age 25 season. So not playing all the games, but still playing a respectable amount of games.
And again, when he's there, he's great. So again, it's not like I don't know how to put it. I think we got depth. It's different if he's, one of the top 3 guys and he's got to play all these minutes. You follow what I'm saying? You got to depend on him because we don't have anybody else that can fill in. You got a lot more options with the depth.
But I think,
and you may not have to use him as much.
And the Ringer identifies his dream fit as Dallas. Like, imagine Grant, scoring talent, able to get, the drive and kick and where he can spot up shoot, but he can also go create off of that. Or it's just straight up situation where you give him the basketball. He has the size to where he can play on the same floor with those guys, where you're not adding another guard in that situation, but he can still create a little bit. I think, again, you identified some of the issues with that possibility, even though that seems like one of the high ends of what you're looking for, that third consistent scorer. But the contract is really big, and if you got him, you would have to look at, you want to make sure that he's healthy enough to be able to contribute. That'd be really cool. But
it's not a perfect fit with the outside considerations, but on paper and on the floor, it's a great fit.
Yeah, and so, look, these are the things where I don't envy Nico Harrison this offseason. Because this is already a really good team, and so you have to be very methodical with how you try and add to it. But he's navigating some tough waters, and I mean, he has had to navigate tough waters since he's been here. I think once you reach draft day, you will have 2 future firsts to deal with, and I do mean future way far out. I think maybe like 6 years in the future to deal with if you wanted to make some trades, and you have the assets that you have on your team, guys like Hardy, Josh Green, and Omax. Should you want to make those available, I'm not saying that they're all available, just kind of talking, would maybe be guys that teams would maybe view as a similar value as maybe like a first-round pick. But you've got guys like that, but you have to identify who you want to keep, who you want to let go. I believe you're just about $2 million over the salary cap, but you're going to need to make some moves anyway to get yourself below the salary cap to maybe give yourself an opportunity to sign Derrick Jones Jr. back, unless you want to make some moves. So, like, Nico Harrison has some things to decide. And he's working from a place of, you've got a pretty solid team. How much do you want to break it up necessarily? And I use break up as the wrong term. But how much do you want to tweak it? Tweak, because you have a good thing and you don't want to do too much work to where you break it, but you also want to make sure you make it better.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Before the trade, this is just a theoretical. This is just spitballing, projecting, whatever you want to call it this time of the year, off season, right? Before the trade deadline, there was a lot of talk. Wouldn't it be nice to get Luka's best friend back on this team, Dorian Finney-Smith? With the trade happening and the success they've had afterwards, do you see Dorian Finney-Smith even being a fit with the way this team is constructed? I don't even know, because I haven't even thought about it hard. I just remembered there was talk that maybe you could go after Dodo in the summertime.
I think he could be, because I feel like one of the things, and I was talking about this with the homie Nick Angstad, Locked On Mavs, one of the things it feels like we learned during this NBA Finals run, you need that 2-wing situation where you have PJ and Derrick Jones Jr. on the floor, right? You need those 2 guys with their versatility, their spot-up shooting, those types of things. And Dorian Finney-Smith helped you kind of figure that 2 years ago when you went on that run, when it was him and Reggie Bullock fitting in those 2 roles. So I think that he could be one of those guys where he's kind of playing either the 3 or the 4 with PJ Washington. And you have that, especially if you cannot, or if you're unable to bring back Derrick Jones Jr. at a suitable price. But regardless, still a tough way to make that go. And 972 points is something they say Dorian Finney-Smith is so limited offensively. Yeah, but I mean, one of the things you have to understand,
he's not as limited as you would think.
No, but I mean, I think that it's fair to acknowledge that there's some limitations there, but also perfect situations don't come around necessarily. And I think that that's where it's going to be. That's why I say I don't envy Nico Harrison, because there's an opportunity to let perfect get in the way of good, but then also there's times where you need to pass on good to get to perfect. And I don't know that I have the temperament for it, but it seems like Nico
I like
Harrison.
the way you put that.
Nico Harrison has shown
He
himself
does.
to be really good at making the right decisions when he has something available.
Exactly, and he knows how to adjust on the fly. Ask Grant Williams. At the same time, remember this. Always know he's willing to fortify his roster, and that's a GM I like.